is our community. I'm so glad you're here because today we are going to go back to a time that was. And my guest today is Carol Jean Barta. I almost say Carol Jean Huerman.
That's okay. I answer to anything.
Carol Jean, she was Carol Jean Huerman. And Carol Jean and I met, we were 13 years old.
Correct.
And we went to Southwest High School. So we're going to talk about the good old days.
We are.
And
we could even sing the fight song.
Oh, well, I don't think that would go over to me. I don't, we would, no, don't worry. Stay with me. We're not going to do it. But today, Carol Jean is a co-host of a radio program.
Correct.
On KKFI. And she started one, I just have to say that, Carol Jean, the Garage Sale Queen. She did do that one.
You know, that all came about, Mary, because my dear friend, and one that you know and so many people know, Charles Ferruzza, called me one time to be a guest. And he wanted me to talk about garage sales because it's something I enjoy doing. And the show went fine. And a couple of weeks later, he called and said, "Oh, Carol, I've lost my guest for the day. Be here in 10 minutes. Well, that wasn't so easy, but I did get there. Interestingly enough, they got a lot of phone calls and said, "Have that crazy old lady back on the show."
That's right.
So he made me his co-host.
I think that's great. And I do have to say that Carol Jean has a couple of booths at the Antique Mall at 83rd Mission Road, so that's why she hits the garage sale.
That's correct. So, I don't put all those things in my own home.
That's right.
I would be exploding if I did that.
But you've been kind of in show business on and off. You know, we were born in a different time, and women didn't do then what they do now.
No.
So Carol Jean has managed to keep her finger in here and there, and
that's how I got into the antique mall business, because I worked for the film companies when they'd come to town as a finder. I would go out and find set design and props and so forth, and I got kind of addicted to thrift stores and garage sales, and it just kind of all fell in place after that.
See? But life has a way of falling in place.
That's true.
But now I have to show you where she started.
Yes.
There she is.
That was from Klein's department store when I was the Fairy Princess in 1956. And that was an interesting, you know, it was just a part-time job. It was not any big.
It was at Christmas time.
It was at Christmas time. And Mr. Klein, who I never met, but he wanted to have something different than a Santa Claus or whatever. So
well, you were definitely not a Santa Claus.
No, and he did the research and found out that at one time there was the Snow Queen, and they called her the Fairy Princess and so forth. So that's who he had. Now, that program started in 1935. So that was years before I got the tiara.
But it went on.
It went on.
After you.
Royalty in our family.
That's right.
True.
And this is Becky Barta.
Becky Barta, when she was the Fairy Princess at the Kansas City Museum in, I think it was 1989.
See? So the Fairy Princess was carried on.
That's right. And I even lent her my tiara.
Now, you can't do better than that.
No, no.
But I have to tell you that this one is the one that I
that's fun.
I love this
That's fun. That's from the same year, actually. That was from the Miss Prairie Village contest. And I went on to Miss Kansas, but as I was telling you in the green room, I did not win. But I was in the top 5, so that's the best I can tell you.
And I promised her we'd show her legs, because that was a good part in that time. So we've done that now.
I want those legs to
yes,
show.
Yes. You know, Carol Jean and I told you we were 13 years old, and we were in 8th grade, and we walked up the steps of Southwest High School.
True.
All of us very afraid,
Oh,
because it was
so
a
afraid.
big, formidable place.
yes, yes.
What do you remember?
Well, I remember thinking, I want to go back to Hale Cook.
And I went to E.C. White, and that school was a little tiny school.
I know. Well, it was frightening. And, you know, interestingly enough, when we were at Southwest, 8th grade had only existed for maybe a
Not
year
very
or two.
long.
And so we were still kind of new. We really should have been back to our grade schools to take 8th grade.
We should have been someplace because we were too young.
We were too young, and the juniors and seniors looked at us like we
Martians.
were right. But we got through it, and by the time we got to be freshmen, then we could look down on the 8th graders.
Right, that's right. But you know, we had a wonderful faculty.
We did.
And the one that I think of always is Miss Phillips was the chemistry teacher.
Now that route I didn't go.
Well, I had Miss Phillips for chemistry, and her first name was Ethel, so we always called her C2H5 Phillips because C2H5 is the ethyl alcohol radical.
Oh, how funny.
So we called her C2H5 Phillips, and she was a little skinny lady, and she, you know, the chemistry lab just smelled like chemistry labs.
Well, I remember walking past it, and it was exactly like rotten eggs.
Yes, well, during that sulfur, boy, we were cooking it up. That's right. Think of some of the teachers. You know, there was Cleora Flory.
And
taught
Miss
English.
McClellan,
Oh,
English,
yes.
we
Susan
loved
McClelland.
her.
Yeah.
How about Miss Pusateri?
She was our gym teacher.
Our gym
Marie
teacher.
Pusateri. Yes.
And my favorite teacher of all,
Yes.
my very favorite, was Miss Breen.
I didn't have her.
Miss Breen
She taught
was
speech, didn't she?
the speech and drama coach.
See, I was not a drama
And of course,
queen.
I went that direction.
I didn't do that.
And she's gone on to the great stage in the sky.
They all
so I
have.
can tell this story.
They all have.
She had a little back room behind a platform in her room, and the platform was where we'd give our speeches or little skits or whatever. And she would assign us a chapter or a scene to read, and then she would vanish into this back room. And we loved her. She always wore black, very theatrical. And she'd vanish into her back room, and before long, we saw a little smoke coming out from underneath the door.
She had to have a little puff.
She went back there for a little puff.
That's funny.
And she lived to be a very, very old lady, and actually came to, I think it was maybe our 35th or our 40th.
That's enough. No, don't go any further.
No more than that.
No.
But after seeing her, I was just mesmerized by the opportunity to see her again. And I went to see her at her nursing home. And she was wonderful.
Isn't it interesting the impact that some people have who have been our teachers on us forever? I just had...
And how we remember them.
And how we remember them. And I remember Miss Anderson was the Latin teacher.
Yes.
And I don't know, you know, Latin's really hard. And so she said to me one time, you know, she said, you're just the best sponge I ever saw. She said, because you can remember all this stuff. And she said, if you just study a little harder, you'd make a better grade in Latin.
Well, there you
But
go.
Latin still to this day stands me in good stead. It does.
See?
It does.
I can imagine. I did not have that brain power. You know, I could only remember the skits and the plays and the dances that we did in gym class, and that's the direction that I should have gone a more studious route. But
Well,
gee whiz, I can't go back. So
no.
I'm
And, you know,
what I
I'm
am.
not sure. Would you really want to go back?
No.
I don't think so. I don't.
You know, I can't think of any big changes I would make.
Well, you know, we all have had in life our ups and downs, all of you, both of us.
Of course.
And sometimes have been very good and sometimes haven't been so
No.
wonderful. But, you know, that's life.
But in high
And
school,
so,
I
yeah.
don't think there's any I remember it as an idyllic time. I had friends. You know, it was a one, and we're lucky. Because
yes,
it was
we
in
were
the
very
50s.
lucky. Talk about Cornerville.
Cornerville. Cornerville was so much fun. It was on the corner. It was a vacant lot on the corner of Meyer Boulevard and Warnell Road.
Exactly.
And it currently, and has for many, many years, has a large, large, high-rise blue apartment building.
My Blue Heaven.
My Blue Heaven.
What is that? 333 Meyer.
333
Yeah,
Meyer.
yeah.
It's known as that. It's known as the Ice Cube.
But we know it as Cornerville.
We know it as Cornerville. And it was a carnival that the students, we really put it on as a fundraiser. For what good, I'm not sure. I don't know where the money went, but we had fun doing it. And we had little booths. One year I know I was a fortune teller. And another year I was the person that sat behind the apple toss. And if they got it tossed in the right place, I'd go to the drink.
But it was fun, and everybody went, and it was a different time and a different place.
Absolutely.
And I think that life today has become rather complicated when compared to when we grew up.
It was just so simple, and so, not that there weren't complexities.
Well, that's true.
But I think a lot of it was that people had more trust for each other, and they valued their friendships more.
Well, and you know, I have to tell you that after all these years, it's been about 30 years, at holiday time, some of the ladies who graduated at the same time in our class, we have a luncheon.
Every year.
And it's such fun to see who looks how bad.
But you know, that too has gone round robin.
I know.
To begin with, when we were very young married women, it was whose husband had the biggest job.
Yes.
Then it was whose kids were the cutest, or who had the most, or whatever. But slowly it evolved to the point where we're just so happy that we can be together and that we're still here. We've lost
a lot.
quite a few.
We have lost quite a few.
And now it is just, no matter who was whose best friend in high school,
it doesn't make any difference
it doesn't
anymore.
matter
It doesn't
anymore.
make any difference anymore.
Nothing.
And I know that there are some of you out there that are shaking your heads up and down because
True.
this was your life as well.
Right,
And
right.
But you know, I want to go back to the definition of doing well, because I think it's kind of changed today.
Oh, it has.
You know?
I think it definitely has. Well, for one thing, it's not the little housewife that sits at home and hangs a picture over the mantle and then sits on the couch and looks at it all day. You know,
We're out working.
We're working.
Yeah.
That
We are. And I still work. Carol G
I
still works.
still work.
I have to say this, because I think that the ladies who come to lunch, the ones that have remained active and doing something, are much more interesting people.
They are.
And have something to talk about. So keep on trucking.
That's the
That's right.
truth.
Yeah.
And there's always ways to do that.
Yeah.
Even if you've been out of the workforce for a year, there's certainly wonderful volunteer opportunities, and there's always ways to connect.
Well, you know, you know, when you've been out there as long as we have, you've changed jobs a few times. And I had retired, and I decided I was going to be a volunteer. And so I went to the hospital that is near where I live, and this cute young lady, like all good employees, I had my resume in my hand.
Good for you.
And the young lady said, well, what would you like to do? Would you like to work in the gift shop? Would you like to do this or that? And I said, well, do you need any help running the hospital? that didn't go over so big. So I figured at that point,
You had maybe overstepped
I had
a little bit.
overstepped the boundaries I had. but I think that we have so many more opportunities now, and I'm appreciative of that.
Isn't it wonderful?
It is, and I'm not sure that all the really young women out there understand how hard it was and to get where we are. Really, I don't think they do.
I don't think so either.
But I still, you know, those days at Southwest, going to 63rd and Brook, the dime store at 63rd and Brookside,
which is still there under new ownership. It's still there.
It looks the same.
And the drugstore,
Yeah.
It's changed names many times, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Oh yes, we miss the Brookside Theater that we all went to.
Yes. Well, yeah, and the Plaza Theater's gone.
Right.
Now we're getting sad
But there's
here.
still Winstead's.
We're still Winstead's. In fact, there was an article a bit ago in the paper about Winstead's, and that they were going to close it up at one time, and people raised such a uproar that Winstead's is still there. And
you know, my son-in-law, who lives with my daughter in New York, of course, when they come to Kansas City, we don't dare go past Winstead's. And he's originally from Ohio, but Winstead's is just it for him.
Well, Winstead's is really good, and I think the hamburgers when we were in high school, I think they were a quarter.
I think they were a quarter.
I do
and
believe.
Probably a little bigger.
Yeah, probably. That's probably, everything's gone up.
Right.
Yes. If I said to you, remember one snippet of something that happened to you in high school that was really something that may have changed your life, may have made your life better, something you did, something you didn't do, decision you made, what would you?
Oh, wow.
What would you come up with? I think about that once in a while.
I can't think of that, but I can think of life's most embarrassing moment. How's that?
Go with it. If you're willing to confess, I'm willing to listen.
Well, it was the senior play, and which was based on auditioning for the senior play, had a lot to do with your permanent record, your academic record. Now, understand, you know, I never got detention or anything like that, but my grades were not top-notch. So I was not in the senior play, but the principal decided,
Mr. Cannon,
at the last minute, and I mean the day of the show, that there should be a vocalist at intermission. And he called me out of class and he said, Carol, we want you to sing a song. And Marilyn Miller was my accompanist.
Marilyn Miller.
And so I said, okay. And I started saying some songs that I knew that I thought Marilyn could play and so forth. And he said, no, there's a brand new song out and I want you to sing that. By this time, it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We dashed down to Jenkins downtown to get the sheet music. That was the only place. And it was very, very complicated.
And they played for it. Well, they would play it for you at that time.
They would.
Remember? Yeah.
Well, this was a very complicated song with some rhyming, some non-rhyming. I mean, I'm not sure I could have learned it in a day or 2 days. Learning it in an hour, I think not. So another classmate, whose name you'll remember, Beverly Lassiter.
I do. Her father was in the Ford business.
That's correct.
Yes.
She stood behind the curtain and softly sang along with me. And I was always just maybe a half a second off of the accompaniment.
Oh, but you were,
I was listening.
You were moving.
But we did get through it. But I think not to the point where there weren't some people who thought, what's she doing?
Well, they thought you were just about 3 seconds behind the world. Well, you know, and I think about that. I think about we had literary societies
Yes.
at Southwest, and we were assigned. It wasn't a matter, it wasn't like a sorority. You were just assigned a literary
Correct.
society. And I don't know if they had a choice or if they don't. I don't know.
I
We
don't
didn't-
remember
I don't
that.
think so. But anyway, we'd have a literary contest every year. And you could write an essay, a short story, a poem. I mean, there were things to do to bring people into the school life and the student government and all
And
that
you
kind of-
worked together on things,
Yeah.
which was wonderful.
Well, it was, and you know, we did not have a small class. It was about 250,
Oh,
maybe something like that.
Oh, pretty close to 300, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
So it wasn't a small class.
No.
But we kind of knew
but we
each
knew
other.
everybody.
Yeah, we did. We did. Well, a lot of us had gone to grade school together. But,
True.
when we have reunions, then we have the E.C. White people and the
Hale
the
Cook and
Bryant
Border
people
Star
and
and-
the Border Star people and yeah.
But we don't sit in those
No,
kind of groups. But
no.
when we have our big reunions, the last few we've had, we do a little group photo of our grade school,
yeah,
group.
yeah.
And ours is just getting smaller
smaller.
and
It is.
smaller. I think the last time we did of course, not everyone comes to the reunions, but I think we only had 5 or 6 from my grade school
Yeah.
in the photo.
Talk about Prom magazine.
Prom magazine was so much fun. Stan Rose, am I
Stan and
correct?
Shirley Rose.
Stan
yes.
and Shirley.
Yeah.
And they put out, for the time, a wonderful magazine.
Oh, it was such fun because we could all hardly wait to see
To
what
see
was
it
new in
came
Prom magazine.
once a month,
Uh-huh.
and very distinctive cover that would always have some interesting picture or whatever. And then inside, they would have the different schools in the Kansas City
Every
area.
high school had a section.
And someone wrote for that.
Yes.
And they'd have student writers and just telling things that were going on in their school.
And a lot of pictures.
Lot of
A lot of
pictures,
pictures.
yes.
And you could buy it at the newsstand.
Absolutely.
And it was, we all kind of waited for a monthly edition of
Oh,
Prom magazine to
Who's
see.
in prom?
That's right. And all the high schools, Southeast, East, Paseo,
Central, Northeast, Paseo. Oh, you said Paseo,
yeah. And Southwest, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just, and I look today, and I think the word that I'm looking for is cohesion.
Yes.
We don't have that so much anymore.
No. Not that I know of. It's been a long time since I've been associated with anyone in the high school element of our community, but I don't think they do, and I don't think that they have friendships that we had friends at Southeast, we had friends from throughout the city. And
But
I
you
don't
know, you said something that's kind of interesting, and as you grow older, you know, high school is not always the best time for everybody.
No.
It just isn't. It's really a hard, and I over the years have told a lot of young people, if you can just hang on, make it through high school,
Right.
you're going to be just fine.
That's correct.
And sometimes the kids that are not so popular are the kids that do the best in the long run.
That is so true.
They're the ones that have succeeded in many different ways, not just
There's
one.
there's those, and I'll say of us, that once high school's over, that's it. Now, fortunately, that certainly isn't the case with you and I, because we've not made it be that
No, we
way.
just
We've
keep
reached out and continued to connect with people, but sometimes the big football stars,
They
it's
don't turn out as
over
well. Mhm. They don't turn out as
when they walk down the aisle and get their diploma, then it's over.
Well, and you know, I always think, you know, when they talk about politics, they always talk about at the right moment to hit the top. You know?
Yes.
And then if you hit too soon or too late, it doesn't work.
It
as well.
doesn't work so well.
And I think that there are people who bloom too early and fade faster than
That's
they
right.
would like to.
Mhm.
So I always high school is not always a good time.
No,
but
it can be very difficult.
as we look back on it, it is a very interesting learning situation, I
Oh,
think.
yes.
I learned a lot, and it wasn't always a good time.
And
but
it wasn't all about academics.
no,
Not
no,
at all.
No, not at all. And I think that it gave us some really good opportunities because, you know, people would go to Southwest at that time rather than go to private school.
True.
And they made that choice. And one thing that was at Southwest that I think is not as important today is the fraternity and sorority system.
It's gone.
It's gone.
And has been gone for a long time. And
But it was rather important, and that was not always a good time for
It was
people.
not always a good time, though I have some mixed feelings on that because I think a lot of lessons were learned in the process of belonging to an organization such as that. But, you know, it would not work in today's.
No, because the times they have changed.
They have changed.
They have changed, and I think that it is really fun to look back, but I think that looking forward is the way to go.
It's always better.
It's always better, and I think that because we can trade on who we are, where we've been, what we've done, that perhaps we can be a little bit more helpful and leave something behind in our community of
I
what
hope
we've
so.
learned. Don't you think so?
Oh, I definitely think
I do.
so.
I think that, and I think that's truly important. It's fun. It's fun to remember the past.
Oh,
It is.
nothing's better.
It is. It's fun, and I enjoy it too, and I look forward to the holiday lunch. But just to show you that the pretty princesses do go on.
They do go on.
There they are.
And I have to tell you that I was photographed with last year's new princesses that now operate under a community service arrangement with the museum. And the old fairy princesses have established an alumni association.
Oh, that's funny.
And I am proud to say that I'm the world's oldest living fairy princess.
So as I say, thank you, Carol Jean
thank you
Barta,
for having me.
Thank you so much. And I think that I would have to leave you with one of the major joys of remembering is the privilege of not forgetting. And
True.
I think
And staying
reminiscing
connected.
and staying connected, reminiscing gives us an opportunity to remember, and
True.
remembering is a very important part of all of our lives. Thank you so much for being with us. It's our community, and I'll be looking for you back soon.